today we're being joined by bGrid, who's going to dive into their solution, their technology in their contribution to smart buildings. bGrid is a mesh network of sensor technology that you put into your building, and then they can connect to all kinds of different apps. I like their analogy of kind of the iPhone for the building. And of course, Stefanie, who's joining us in a moment, will tell us a lot more about how bGrid works. But what we want to dive into today is not only their technology and what it does, but the insights and the knowledge and the reasons for why they put things in the way that they put them in. Smart building it's not something that you buy, it's a journey you're on, and bGrid understands that very well, in that they know they're not just going to place sensors in and that's the end of the story. That's actually the beginning of the story. And how do we actually take that data and do meaningful things with it? One of the most amazing was a few months ago, I was on a building tour with bGrid, and we were at one of the sites that had just installed bGrid, and the building wasn't live yet. But the owner was looking at data and was looking at kind of how to use that data more effectively. And he was giving us a tour of this data, and he said, we just finished the facade. The facade is just finished. And what I did is a few days ago, I looked at bGrid's sensors, and I could look at what the air was doing. And I detected multiple links around the building, leaks of air, saying that the facade was not finished. And I needed to push back to say, hey, can you finish the facade? And I was standing next to Carl, who is the CEO of bGrid, and he turns to me and says, I didn't know our technology could even do that. And it was just so funny because it was a new value case, a new use that wasn't even known yet. So we're seeing new value cases, we're seeing new use cases emerge from all of this smart building technology on a regular basis. New ones every day, and the collective is really diving into them, trying to figure out which ones are adding value, which ones can be scaled, and which ones can be used further. So I'm excited to welcome bGrid onto the stage in a moment, and then we're going to talk about their solution and how it links into all the other smart building aspects. When we look at the Smart Building Collective, we're made up of a couple different pillars, right? We are buildings. So our buildings that go through certification are now part of a network of buildings that are all learning from each other and pushing the boundaries, finding out what's working, what's not working, and how to drive value and innovation. At the same time, it's a network of living labs that research institutions can plug into and do research with. All of the buildings that we've certified, well, for the most part, are very open to that opportunity to do research and push the boundary. At the same time, when we certify buildings, we uncover all kinds of different opportunities and things that could be optimized or opportunities that could be seized. And how do we do that? So we have a partner network that is not only feeding the SBC framework and the certification itself of how we certify buildings, but we now have a solution certification for partners where we can help them find each other more easily. And not only find buildings, but also find each other. So solutions finding each other to be more optimized and more integrated. We have our AP Academy, which is now onboarding for our next cohort, which will launch in Q1. Get in touch. There's links all over the website and all over our LinkedIn. You can also email us directly if you would like to participate in this. It's a training program, but it's more than that, because in our building certification and in our partner certification, we have a peer review model where these assessors are helping us to fine tune and look at the qualitative aspects of buildings and give us lots of insights as to what could be done better. And then finally, research and innovation is a massive part that we're continuously working on. We work with universities who are all kind of pushing the boundaries of research. So we like to connect the dots and make buildings and partners and research institutions find each other. And that is all, of course, held together by our SBC framework, which gives us a language that everyone can speak about. And that's what we're going to go through today, is the SBC framework in relation to bGrid's knowledge and technology. And that SBC framework, which we've spoken about many times, but I'll just recap it so that you have context for today's session, is we break smart buildings down into these 5 main functions, main categories. Of course, governance and context is a huge part of the smart building certification, so we can't forget that. But technically speaking, we're really looking at it from these different areas. Building usage is very much how is the asset being utilized? How can we manage that, maintain it, and optimize it? Building performance is very much your sustainability, your energy, your water. How is the building, how is the asset actually performing? Building environment is all about indoor environment, health and well-being, air quality, sound, light, these types of things. Safety and security is your physical safety and your digital. It's not only about the physical anymore. Of course, we have cybersecurity and aspects that need to be covered for data and protection and these types of things. And then user behavior and collaboration is how are people interacting with each other, but also interacting with the building. And then all of this is brought together with integrative design and connectivity and infrastructure. Without connectivity and infrastructure, the whole thing falls over. It doesn't work. And integrative design is looking at how can we, with the least amount of technology, maximize all of these different aspects. And that's a really interesting evolution that we're seeing in the smart building space, in that we see buildings that do it with 30 technologies, and we see buildings that do it with 5 technologies. And it's very different across the board. And how they're building those smart buildings is really a fascinating evolution in itself. And Stefanie today is going to be able to help us understand how bGrid approaches that. But of course, every partner in every building does it itself. But the Smart Building Collective is really disseminating all of those different ways of doing it. And so it becomes a really nice place to learn how to do it better, how to optimize your design, how to benchmark your design against other buildings or other partners. So I think it really is a nice way. The framework, what we really enjoyed last week in our session was that the framework also looks at it very much from different stakeholder perspectives. You know, building usage and building performance, you can think about it very much from a property manager or an asset manager. How do we optimize our building? Building environment is very much a user experience, and user behavior is very much a user experience. So by taking the solutions in the buildings through these blocks, we can really, from a stakeholder perspective, understand better how to build a smart building, but also how to manage and control and optimize a smart building. So without further ado, I'm excited to jump into it with Stefanie, and we're going to talk about bGrid. I'm just going to get rid of this screen. Stop sharing, and there we are. Hello.
Yes. Hello, Nicholas.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. You can already see on my Christmas decoration, of course, the last few working days for the holidays. So everyone who's watching, thanks for watching this, and happy holidays. Really excited to be in this session. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you for joining me. It's really great to have you here, and we're just so inspired by what bGrid does. We're always interested in what's coming next and partaking in different initiatives together. We had a big year actually with bGrid, which is great. But let's maybe start with who is bGrid, what does bGrid do, and introduce yourself as well into the space.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I'm Stefanie. So I'm working at bGrid for quite some time now, working within the commercial and the technical space. So really deep diving into what is a smart building, because yeah, of course, for a lot of people, a smart building has a different meaning. If you ask it to someone, it gets a completely other different answer than a facility manager or a user or an installer. Everyone has its own vision. So yeah, defining what is a smart building is one part of what we do or what we help with within the market. And I think that's where the Smart Building Collective is also really a nice framework to bounce it against. Especially the building blocks you were talking about, the different stakeholders. When I first started there, I had no clue that so many people were involved and so many people to keep happy. So it's good to have a bit of a guideline. And with that, I also try to make an initial design for bGrid. So part of it is also connecting to the entire ecosystem, to all the partners. There are so many companies really high level specializing on a certain subject, certain areas. And I think working together in this field is one of the key points, especially since everything moves so rapidly. You see buildings are there for 10 years, but if you look at the technology, then there's so much has changed in the last 10 years. It's really important to keep updated. And that's also what bGrid does. You already mentioned it a bit. I think it's a lovely introduction, because it's exactly also how we see ourselves. We really try to enable new functionalities for our clients. And half of the time we have no idea what's going to be. A lot of people have really nice ideas to do something with the data to enhance on it. So it's really lovely to see. But we really try to create indeed a building a bit as a smartphone. So deliver the high quality hardware, create that backbone within your building, and make sure you can update it over time, just like you update your smartphone, create new features, but you can decide yourself what to do with it. So which applications to download on top of that. And also maybe change over time. We went to quite some crises. So a lot of things are also changed within organizations. It's really nice to be flexible. Also, if you have, for instance, a different tenant. So my phone, I can give that to my little brother. He can download other apps with it. Same with a building. You want the same infrastructure, the same hardware, but supported for the different groups and the different people. And I think sorry, that's why we're here. Yeah.
No, it's, you said a couple things in there that are really interesting, right? I think the speed in which technology is moving right now is crazy, right? We launched the certification 3 years ago, and the certification is a benchmark system, right? So whenever we see a smarter, better building, the whole benchmark shifts towards that. And the buildings, in just that amount of time, the difference that we're seeing of its like sort of comprehensive, holistic, smart design is a world of difference in just 3 years, right? And then you also tapped on the life cycle of a building is long, of course, and technology is quite quick. So can you say something about how bGrid is changing with the time? How do you ensure that in 2 years' time the technology is not old, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
That's
I
the
think
biggest
when we
challenge, Jen. Yeah.
yeah, I think that's indeed the hardest part. We really keep on changing and have to evolve. If we stand still, then all of our competitors, of course, will take over. But you really do see that when we first started, we had like a multi-sensor, everything in one sensor, and that was the novelty. I mean, if you look now, everyone has a multi-sensor. It's more a means to an end. So we also evolved with that. We really evolved not only in the hardware part, but also supporting our clients, our partners, and really delivering on the data. For instance, we try to combine our data sets. So we have, for instance, now our people estimation. So we previously did not have that, but we just looked at our movement data and all the other data types which we had. And then we derived an algorithm which we could estimate the amount of people in a room. And we could do that not only with the new buildings, but also our previous buildings as well. The same we are currently also doing with CO2 sensors, especially after COVID. Everyone is really aware of the air quality. So we're now also looking, we know approximately the amount of people in the room, we know the enthalpy. Can we also give an estimation of those CO2? Because CO2 sensors are quite expensive. Not all companies have like the money or the means to implement such things. So we can maybe help them step it up a bit and provide them more information, also more valuable information for that time. And also we try to help, really help our clients. So we really sit with them quarterly to just see, because data is really valuable, but it's also really new. A lot of people like to have data, but have no clue what to do with it. So just one of our experts helping is good.
You tapped into that as well, saying, what is a smart building? I think that definition is shifting so much right now, and people are trying to understand it. And of course, the smartest buildings in the world, those people have been busy with it for a long time, right? So those conversations are a little bit easier. But that's maybe 5% of the tech, the buildings out there. You have this whole other segment that isn't even busy with it yet. So it's I think going to be a busy 2023. I hope. But I want to talk to you about the organizational support that you all give, but let's save that for the end. Let's maybe dive into the different modules that we just discussed, and let's talk about how bGrid helps. So like, for instance, building usage, right? If I'm a property manager and I'm trying to get a handle on my assets usage and how to optimize it and what to do better, how does bGrid help in that situation?
Yeah, definitely. As I said, we measure occupancy, but also like estimation of the amount of people in a room. So I think what's really valuable is that you not only know what is occupied, yes or no, but also how it's occupied. Because now with the flex working, we see, for instance, with a lot of our clients, that a lot of the really big meeting rooms for like 10, 15 people, there's just one people sitting there Skyping because it's way too loud in the rest of the area. So it's really fun also to see how an organization changes and what it needs in terms of meeting rooms, but also maybe in terms of type of workspaces. So you can also verify where people are sitting, what they're using. Do you need maybe more phone booths indeed for these kinds of calls? But we also had a client and they had 2 identical meeting rooms, and then one room's fully booked all the time. The other room, maybe 10%, little less. So it was really wondering, how can that be? So we just went to the rooms, looked at it, and one room fully equipped with a table, nice screen. You could really use it for these kinds of meetings. Other was maybe a bit more social with a few couches, a bit more for conversation. But apparently people didn't need that at the moment. So by just changing only the furniture, you could really optimize your real estate. And I think those things are small tweaks, but for an organization, it's like, the key topic.
Yeah, and that's an important thing, right? Like what a lot of, I guess, organizations think is that they can buy a smart building and then, their problems are solved, it's done. But I think you hit on something really important, and it's that the importance of that experimentation, right? Where you're constantly seeing if that room is the right configuration and then comparing it to the data. That's really interesting. And do you have other cases that you see? How do you guys kind of instill that mindset of experimentation? Or do you nudge that?
Yeah, I think also just listening to our clients. So we also have some dashboarding, and indeed some people expect all the magic and everything goes automatically. But by the end of the day, there are just numbers, especially in terms of occupancy. There's not something I cannot automatically just shift all the walls of your building. You really have to do that yourself. But by just listening in, because we create them visuals to help them understand what's happening in the building. But we also have like facility managers who just looked at our dashboards and think, it's really nice that I can see what is used, but that's, then I still need to distill a lot of information myself, see what to do with it. But I just want like one screen, how many people were there, like how many people of one were there within a building in which meetings, and how many meeting rooms do I have for one. So you just count the amount of people of one, also if they're like in a big room at one time, and then you just lie them against, and then you can see maybe the amount of meeting rooms matches what you need or where people are, but they just cannot find it, or maybe air quality is really bad there or temperature. So you need to tweak those rooms. So by just listening and what they need and also how they understand it, because we're quite technical as a company, we have a lot of technical people. Yeah. So we really like to deep dive, but sometimes you just need to talk to people and listen to just make it one step easier. That's not always easy, but it's really a good thing to do. Yeah.
Do you guys also capture data on like how amenities are being used or how machines are being moved around or that type of stuff?
Yeah, definitely. We also do like asset tracking, we call it. So you can place any tag from a third party, you can buy it on Alibaba if you want, place it on a device. Usually we see that a lot within either if you share devices or if you have big devices such as cleaning carts or movable screens, but also a lot within healthcare. So healthcare really wants to follow wheelchairs or pumps or whatever they are using, because apparently they're always somewhere, either they're standing next to a patient or they're in a closet, and nurses lose a lot of time by just searching for them. Yeah. So by giving people information on those kinds of aspects, it makes their life so much easier. They can just look at it, view it, but you can also see, for instance, how long it's used, at which position it had been. We also did that with beds, for instance, that they wanted to know, okay, if a bed is used, then we need to see if it goes like to the cleaning station and then back. If that didn't happen, then we need an alert or something like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then do you guys do transportation, parking and bikes and stuff like that?
Yeah, we have done some parking by just indicating if parking spots are occupied, yes or no. But we stopped doing that because we saw that a lot of people just want a full parking management system. So really also connected to your license plates, etc. And that's also what we think it's important that, we really want to develop. We want to be the best at what we are. So we really have our core competence, and we really work together with a lot of partners to together deliver the complete picture. So we said, okay, that's not our core competence. We just, work together with the rest of the ecosystem to deliver that.
No, and I love that, right? I think that spirit of collaboration, I mean, that's what the collective is all about, right? And if we can create those integrations before going into buildings, then it's also a lot easier for buildings, right? Because you've worked with these partners before, you know how it works. It says, here you go, here's your total smart building structure. But I think for our viewers, I think it's important to realize that building usage is not only about the people moving around the space, but it's also about your assets. It's about how you're tracking and tracing everything that's going on in your space. And really cool solution. So let's go over to building performance then, where we're talking about energy consumption, waste consumption, how is the building actually, supporting life, I guess, being more sustainable. How does bGrid help that module?
Yeah, actually, you have something new here, which we are just testing because, everyone tries to optimize the building. But unfortunately, a lot of buildings are like standards, not well designed or maybe not well regulated. We see a lot that people just, set up the building, but then things change over time, or people program it differently, and it's not matching its performance, which it should be.
Like 99.9% of buildings don't match their performance when they.
So that's I think that's really terrible. That the number is that high. So what we did is we started with a validation tool, Be Validated, where we just, of course, we as bGrid, we can both measure things within the building, but we can also control the building. We make a connection with the building systems. So we can then sense, for instance, +2 degrees within this room. And we can also see within our data if the room also gets 2 degrees, if that goes fast or if that takes like half a day. And sometimes we also see that maybe the capacity is not right, so it only goes to 1 instead of +2. So we really validate to see, okay, what areas in a building are performing poorly, or maybe if I do +2, then the room next to me goes warmer. We also had that. So just to validate, maybe you can tweak your system so the basis is okay, and then from there you can start optimizing, because all the optimization is really great. I think there's a lot to gain at there, but the basic has to be solid. I mean, I think only there you can get half your energy performance already up to speed.
Well, and just verifying that everything indeed works the way it's supposed to work, right? I think we've uncovered in research projects that certain ventilation systems are just off or not working, and people keep tweaking the heating, but it's just not doing anything. And I think those are, it's bound to happen in these big buildings with these complex management systems, but I think having sensor technology there to look at it is a no-brainer. So what would you know, if you could give advice to a building that is trying to optimize its performance, where would you say start?
First check the basis. I think that's yeah. Checking the basis is, I think, the important thing. So if you have that done, then mainly if you're renovating or if you have a new build, then it's really good to look at the systems, to what you implement, and that's also possible to tweak something. I mean, I can control, for instance, based on CO2, which we measure, so you're not just constantly pumping air, but you just adapt the air volume based on what actually happens. But then, of course, your system must also be able to react onto that. If there's no valve or nothing to react to that, then it stops. So it's good to, if you're starting, create a solid basis with also systems that are open, granular, and that can connect to others. And then, of course, we try to use our data to tweak it. So both just our real-time data, so occupancy-based controls, daylight harvesting algorithms. But then that's, of course, the first step. I think the next step is, and that's also where we work a lot with our partners, is really use that data in combination with outside data, such as the weather, with really the thickness of your facade. So taking everything into account, also the energy prices, solar panels which you have on your roof, to really create the building management system which reacts a bit more automatically and really says, okay, maybe you need to heat a bit earlier or a bit later, or just really make the building think for yourself. Because humans, we're quite into our patterns. We always say that we're not, and we're our own person, and we do it our own way. But what we do see on the data is that everyone has its own pattern, and really Friday at 6 o'clock, there's no one there.
So if I can summarize that, it's start with insight, get the data, understand what's going on, what's working, what's not working, make adjustments to what's going on, and then work towards automation and getting things integrated so that it automatically adjusts based on usage.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Cool. And then let's move to environment, indoor environment and health and well-being. So how does the bGrid solution help with air quality, with light, with sound, plants? I don't know if it but how do you guys approach that, and how does it help?
Yeah, I think especially lately it's a hot topic. Everyone is more aware of its own health and well-being. And at home, I can look it up. I can place all kinds of sensors, look on my phone, have a view into everything. But then I get to the office and then I have no idea. I just hope everything is okay, and that's it. So I think we as bGrid, what we do is, we try to collect the data, of course. So indeed, place sensors to measure the temperature, the air quality, but then also bring it to a users in an easy level. So where you can not only view, okay, where can I sit, but also if I want to book the meeting room, is the air quality then okay? Or maybe I should wait, open a window, or just book another room. Just give them a bit more extra information. I think that's really important, that people can at least make a decision based on that. If your system cannot handle it, then at least people can decide. apart from that, I was talking about our CO2 estimation, which we are currently busy with, so that you can have more places, a bit more elaborate information on that CO2 level. Because usually now you have it within meeting rooms, but in the open offices, if there's something there, half the time you have no clue, or it's in a corner on 100 square meters. I mean, that's not measuring that much.
So you capture CO2 and then you're projecting what the CO2 levels will be.
Yeah, we do then. So you can then place just a bGrid sensor without CO2, because usually as bGrid, we are spread out through the building, also because we can control both light and climate, localization, etc. So you need a certain base of sensors. But they also measure just temperature levels, people estimations, and based on those environmental parameters which you already have, we can give an estimation of the CO2 level without placing the actual sensor, because we see that an actual CO2 sensor within such a device, that's just costly. And especially if you want to have that in each and every position, usually you just choose a few and then you're done. But if you can get an estimation from each and every device, then of course you have a way more granular view on what's happening in your building and how it's going, without having to do a large upfront investment.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds like a very powerful solution. And you guys capture sound as well?
Yeah, we also do sound levels. We mainly see that that's really useful for people, to determine a bit in which neighborhoods they want to sit, so to say. So usually there are certain places where it's a bit louder because it's next to a cafeteria or because there's a project group there, and some other areas are a bit more quiet. So it's usually we see that people use it a bit more to see, okay, where can I sit? But we also thought about it, for instance, when you just have your noise measurements and all of a sudden there's a loud noise without us detecting any movement. We also see it, okay, that you can use it, for instance, as a facility manager to see, okay, maybe I should look into that room. Maybe something happened, something's broken, something snapped, or whatever you want to use it for. But you can also see those outliers as a kind of a warning.
Yeah. Well, sound is tied as one of the number one complaints in offices, right? So if we can give people insight as to where they could go to find some quiet space, or if they're more outgoing and they can, have a more social space, that's really valuable. And then let's move into kind of safety and security. That's both physical and digital. And digital is a really challenging one right now, right? I think over the next 5 to 10 years, and actually quicker, that's going to have the most focus from a smart building perspective of how do we keep all this information and data safe. Physical safety, that's a little bit more tried and true, although what we're seeing is solutions that are being used for more than just safety, like they use them for occupancy and these types of things. What are you guys doing from that perspective?
Yeah, I think safety and security is a hot topic. I think everyone, as soon as we talk about data, is asking, how do you do that, where to store it? But also a lot of question about personal data and GDPR rules, of course. And what we do see is, especially if you want to use the data, make sure that you collect the data in a way that you're not intrusive. So for instance, people counting, you can do that with a camera, but a camera is also, in terms of privacy, really tricky to use. So if you're using other values for that, then you don't have the privacy intrusion. So that might be a better solution, depending, of course, on your company and what you want to accomplish. But starting with the basis and trying to keep the person out with collecting a lot of data, I think that's really an important thing. Also, what we really strive for, because in that manner, you can also really use the data for a lot of different use cases. While if there's something of a MAC address or something hidden in it, then usually you need to go through a whole process also towards personnel managers. If you want to just try something, maybe try a new use case, and then the innovation stops really quickly because it's such a hassle, a lot of paperwork. So I think that's a really important thing. And then, of course, we try to close off our data as much as possible. in the sense of intrusion. So we've done a lot of governmental buildings, etc. So they really pen tested us, making sure that everything is tightly and secure. So that's also really where our focus is on.
Yeah, and how do you, because what we're seeing is that solutions protect their solution, of course, and they protect their vulnerable spot of where they API to other solutions, or where they connect into the building. But there's no real umbrella yet around the entire smart building from what we see. Have you seen anything there already that you guys are interested in?
Yeah, I think it's really hard, also difficult, because every organization have a different preference. But we do see that, for instance, some people like to create their own data lake, so then we can go directly to a Microsoft Azure environment from someone else, and they can together collect the data in their own ways and organize and secure it in their own manner. So I think that's something we do see, but mostly, unfortunately, it's still everyone on its own, and we try to connect where we can. But there's still, the system integrator component where we're talking about before, that's still missing a lot. Yeah.
It's coming. We know it is. We're certifying our first building with a full system integrator involved. And what a difference, right? They know exactly what's going on with all the different technologies, and they can fill in the assessment so easily. Whereas I think when that doesn't exist, it's a much bigger challenge, not only to get certified, but to manage the smart building, right?
Yeah,
so
definitely.
The last module is user behavior and collaboration. So how people collaborate with each other, but also interact with the building. So how does bGrid help those cases? How do they help the individual actually on the floor?
Yeah, I think, one of the important things is, of course, presenting the data. We see a lot of, our application partners who have wonderful solutions, but they really have a hard time, convincing people to use it. So really adapting and going to the users to help them and to see what they need is, I think, a key thing. What we also did is just putting some basics in Microsoft Teams. Everyone knows Teams. You can just open it. You already have the application. Usually no one needs to download something extra, which they also don't like. And then you can just start simple. Just find your meeting room, see the air quality, control your light and climate. So really on a basic level with things people already know and understand, make the first step into a smart building.
Yeah.
And then from that, you can, of course, build out, you can put on extra use cases, and you can really help them with what they're doing and what they want. But then also it depends a bit on the organization. Some startups, they want it all. And then you have a bit of government where they say, no, just give me the light switch. I think it's way too scary to do that by a phone. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's amazing because bGrid, it's a sensor mesh network, and it covers all of the modules of the smart building certification in a lot of ways. Of course, it doesn't do everything, but it does a lot. And then your guys' integration with all kinds of different partners can really create a holistic smart building quite easily. But before we close off, I want to talk about how do you guys, one of the biggest problems, you mentioned it earlier, is what is a smart building, right? So like people say, oh, give me the works and I'll be done. But how do you guys transfer that knowledge to your customer? How do you manage that journey to help them get the most out of this technology? Because for us, it's not about the technology, it's about what you do with it that matters, right? You can have the smartest building in the world with all of the technology you can possibly imagine, but if you don't do anything with it, it doesn't really matter, right? So how do you guys help that journey? And what could a customer kind of expect when they work with you? And how do you advise people to go through their smart building journey in general?
Yeah, I think, that's a really difficult question depending on the stakeholder you have in front of you, because, sometimes we have people who done a lot of research, know all about smart buildings, and they just start working in detail with all kinds of different use cases and things they want to do with it. And they have like such a big dream. They want to buy the Ferrari, but then they come to us and they only have like money for just a Honda Civic or something. And yeah, you really have to, with those kind of people, you really have to feed the dream, but then also make sure they stay with 2 feet on the ground. So make sure that they know what to do step by step, and maybe what infrastructure, what basic do you need to start with, and how can you easily expand on it. So, and also, yeah, just teach them a bit on what's possible, what's in the market, and also that maybe it's not just one company, because a lot of people, they just tender it out, expect like the full dream to come, that one person comes to them and say, hey, I can provide the full picture for you, all shiny and done. But then in reality, no one can do all the use cases. No one can tick all the boxes. And if they can, then usually, yeah, you have to really watch out, because it's either a vendor lock-in. If you want to change anything, it's really hard, or something is not really working as supposed to, or maybe it can be on a higher level. So that's also what we teach people, like to really think a bit of the ecosystem, and to also think a bit in reality. So really think, what do you need, and also how to step it up. So where to start and how to approach it further. And then we also try to create a bit of talk to all the different stakeholders, because usually we see that, for instance, a user, they really love the technology, but then behind it is an installer who needs to do something with it. And they are also really afraid new technology, higher risk. So also helping the user with their own stakeholders, so managing expectations also a bit more down the line, so that everyone is confident that they get something that really supports their job or what they're doing going there.
Yeah, it's a complex stakeholder map, right? There's so many different parties, and that's why the framework is built the way it is to hopefully speak to each stakeholder for what they need and when they need it, right? Because trying to speak to everybody with everything it doesn't work. It's too complicated.
No, I think that definitely, I think definitely that platform just gives a bit of guidelines also, because people try, you need the ecosystem, but people really try to put solutions in boxes, but it's really difficult if there's no definition of such a box or which box fits where. I mean, I also really have a hard time positioning us within a really big field. So I think having the collective really gives a better image of where certain solutions fit, but also where they comply to each other.
Yeah, I think that's how can we find complementing solutions and then complementing the challenge that we have fit. And I've said it before, I feel quite bad for some of the building owners sometimes when they're amongst prop tech, right? Because everybody says, oh, you need my solution, you need my solution. It's just overwhelming, because it's, what does your solution actually do? Because what is written on the box is also not the full story. How could it be? How could it be the full story? You guys also have quite a few mature partnerships with different parties you guys have worked with before, and in multiple buildings where you guys complement each other really well. Do you guys see that some of the complexity will be taken away from the customer at some point, where you guys will make those integrations, outside, and then you can say, here's one contract with one invoice, or are we not there yet?
Yeah, definitely. I think partly. I think because within the building world, there are really two big parts. It's the building itself, so hardware in it, and you have a software part. If you have a new build or renovation really creating the building, then they don't want to do anything with IT, with software parts. So it's really hard to combine it. We tried that in the beginning, that we really matched it. But then, for instance, you have a tenant and they have like a whole different single sign-on process or restrictions. So you cannot deliver the building while it's only the software layer. So we do see like a bit of a connection between what you actually need in hardware and software. I think that will remain like as two contracts, as in delivery and a bit more recurring operational side. But on the delivery side, connecting the hardware parts together, and on the software side, connecting everything together, I think that can easily be bundled into one vision and step together. Yeah.
Well, so what we've seen, which is really interesting over the course of our certifying buildings, is you have two real distinct cases in buildings, right? You have the developer who is planning on holding on to the building and managing the building, and they know exactly what they're going to do, right? They know the functionality, they know the technology they need, and they also know the process that they're going to put in place to manage all of that technology. And then you have these other buildings that are being built for the purpose of selling, of course, or for leasing it out to somebody else, and the property management of it is not yet clear. It'll be another party, it won't be us. Yeah. And they have a really hard time kind of justifying that technology that they're putting in and the value of that technology. And I think that's exactly what you're kind of hinting at. Yeah. And that, I think, is going to change a lot over the coming 5 to 10 years, but it's a very interesting space at the moment, definitely, because I think that those buildings, they may put the emphasis on the tech, so they put a ton of technology in, but how do they transfer that knowledge and that making sure it gets used?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because we often see a switch. New people come to the table, and half of the time they have no idea what's in their building or what's used. So knowledge transfer is definitely a key point. Yeah.
So have you guys been involved in when, say a bGrid building has existed for a year, it has bGrid technology, the technology is being used, and then that building gets sold or gets transferred to a new tenant, or are you guys then involved again in helping that transfer, or what do you see there? Do we just lose all the functionality and it gets turned off? I mean, what's normal? Or all
yeah,
of it
I think unfortunately a bit of both. Of course, we love to see that everyone calls us, and that's also where we learn. So we try to put more and more things in place that people really know about us, and also try to call us or get informed by building owners or people who are currently there. But unfortunately, we do see indeed buildings where we are that, multi-tenant buildings especially, then maybe a tenant comes in, only has a few rooms, and he thinks, let's just place an extra ceiling here with new lights, and then our sensor is hanging above that. And we're thinking, then we do not measure anything anymore, but they're just unaware of the technology. And then, we really have to come in. Of course, we know that things change. So then we really try to actively involve them, tell about our technology, the possibilities, because usually when a user hears about it, it really wants to make the effort. Well, if he doesn't know it, then he just starts installing and does whatever. Yeah. So we really try to place that as well within handover documents or also within tenant documents. I mean, usually if you rent a place, you get a document with some rules and guidelines. We're now also advising building owners, put our system in it, put that they can contact us or maybe through you, so that at least they know that there's something there, and then they can get a bit better information or advice on it.
Yeah, I think that documentation is an interesting one, right? Because I think when an asset transfers in the first go, it loses like 70% of the documentation. And then the second go, if it gets sold or transferred again, it loses another, like, you're down to like 3% of the documentation is lasting after transfers. And that's really, really fascinating.
Yeah, I think what maybe also helps is that, we actively monitor our buildings. So we do see, for instance, if temperature values are way too high or if something weird is happening, then we can see that just in our data and we can highlight it. And then usually you find out that something has changed, or they unplugged something or something happened. So within the data, we can really see it. And we now also actively doing more like account management based on the data. So quarterly, just going there and telling about our data, asking what's happened. And then sometimes by just being there, you also get way more information than just standing on the side. Yeah.
Yeah, but so you guys stay involved and you guys help them on their journey when they're seeing this new data.
Yeah, definitely. It goes both ways. We have a lot of information to get to them, but usually they also have a lot of information coming from us.
Thank you so much for this. This was really wonderful and great to hear more about the solution in line with the certification. We have the solution certification. There'll be some more kind of press coming out about that soon, which is exciting. Do you have any closing remarks? Anything you'd like to finish off? Any piece of advice for the new year?
Piece of advice for the new year. Yeah, I know it's a difficult time. A lot has happened within the built environment. A lot changes also in terms of materials, which is not there, of course, but also definitely with new rules and guidelines, which start in 2023 based on energy, more energy efficient buildings. So definitely think about what you want to do with your building. Yeah, if you need anything, I think, the Smart Building Collective has a lot of nice partners, and one of them will definitely match your needs. So try to take a rest next week, enjoy Christmas, and then start fresh in the new year.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We'll speak to you soon.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.